Hi guys. It's been a while, but this is Lurchy Punnet with Top Tier Tiers. We're doing a bit of a revamp of, well, everything really. Because well, neither I nor Tom, who is recording as always, has the time to sit down and kind of smash out a 3.5 hour set review.
And neither do our
Three and a half
guests,
hours.
actually.
Yeah, that is another big thing. We used to have guests when it was a little uh, there was a lot less content creation around, and people just kind of want to be on set reviews. But now there's a lot more other people who are doing their own set reviews, and that's fantastic. So I figure we can probably condense down to more competitive content and skip all the random vanillas and bad standby targets and bad climax combos that take up a good 60-70% of our runtime and talk a bit more about cards that are meta relevant and think we're also going to trim to more meta-relevant sets, which is why we're kind of trying to kick things off with Heaven's Feel. Now, we would actually be doing something like Love Live or something like Bang Dream, but it's my fault because I'm really not familiar with all of the cards being played in all of the meta decks. So we'll hopefully have somebody who is familiar with those cards. And that being said, the rating system and stuff is still in our slideshow. It's kind of going to sit there, but I don't know if we're going to bother talking about the actual rating as much as discussion on the cards themselves. Um, so yeah, this is going to serve like the set overviews that you might remember us doing for most sets. We're going to talk about some of the best cards in each color, how they fit into the deck, what their role is, and on occasion we'll be talking about how they are the reason to play the deck, so they are the quote unquote good meta cards or whatever. And then at the end we'll talk about the impact the set has had and the impact that it will continue to have through whether or
Sounds
not there'll
good.
be a ban list as well. Yeah, I think that's probably what we'll do. Let's just go straight on to yellow. So we've kind of done a thing where we've done an impromptu list of top cards for each of us. Um
Uh, only when we only when we have some discrepancies, because as most of our viewers might know, there are often just way too obvious choices when it comes to top cards per color, and not much room
yeah,
for disagreement, honestly. So,
it doesn't help that me and Tom kind of have similar opinions about a lot of things,
that is also true.
which will which will mean there'll be a lot of homogeneity. But in at least this case with yellow, there's a little bit of a difference, and I think that's mostly based on the decks that we play, to be quite
Yeah,
honest. But
fair
that's
enough.
totally fine. The first card, let's just get straight to it. It's on both our lists. It's Saber, the Holy Sword Windup. This is the bouncer. So what it does is when you play it, bounce one of your opponent's cards, and it gets 2k for the turn. So it's only playable at level 3, unlike some of the more powerful bounce cards out there. But given the impact of an on-command bounce in the current metagame, I don't think it's understated how valuable it is to have this. And then it also has another fairly, I think this is actually an underrated ability. Um, when it attacks, you can pay one ditch card. If you do, basically give all your characters 501 soul for the turn, which allows you to kind of push for more 2 damage attacks, which you often find in this deck where you're often playing 1 soul cards. And it's not going to come up every single game, and it's not going to come up in every single game state, but having access to this is actually pretty good.
Also, like super good soul mid battle phase. It happens on attack, so you can just you're given a lot more flexibility with where you want
Mm,
the plus soul to be applied. Because, like, for example,
yeah,
like something that could come up is something like they have like a say you just have like one attack that needs to go first that isn't this card, and you'd prefer it not to have like a plus one soul. You can attack with that card first, then this card, and then this card will attack for next card will attack for whatever soul plus one.
yeah.
Uh,
And you can also because it's a delayed decision, you can use one of your other attacks to see whether or not
yes,
you'd
yeah,
rather the added soul, which is I think the most when I played with profiles like this in rewrite and SAO and stuff, that's always been something I've really appreciated. And
Yeah.
it's also a way to pay out climaxes if you mid battle, but
Mm.
that's a bit less important on a card which can potentially have massive impact.
Yeah, I
But
think it's just mainly play this card when you are going for some kind of kill that turn. I think
mm,
mostly, or
yeah,
either that. I'm talking about mostly. I'm talking about the full effect, but obviously
yeah,
you'd
yeah.
play it. Obviously you'd play it if you need the bounce
Let's
for any reason.
let's list some decks that the
Oh yeah,
bounce might be good against.
yeah.
So the first one would be, I think everybody has appreciated this already. Alberta, which is a deck
Of
that
course.
runs a bodyguard and tries to drain people's resources with that bodyguard and its preceding game plan. This completely shuts that out and forces it into more of an attrition battle. Even if they play the bodyguard back down, it's really not like it hasn't done its job basically. The bodyguard will not have done its job. It will have wasted its resources,
Yeah.
and Alberta is a very resource intensive deck. So this is one way to start turning their own game plan against them. Um,
Fujimi
there's this
maybe.
deck, yeah, Fujimi, which is basically a set that has a similar game plan. Play giant idiots, and
Uh,
then try to stop. Yep.
both effects are also the second effect is also quite good against their full counter.
Yes, and it's good against their minus soul counter as well as their anti-trait counter.
Yeah.
So basically, you can open up a direct lane to get a guaranteed attack through. And unlike a lot of other sets, Fujimi does not actually have an incredible comeback ability. It relies lots on having established its field. Now, another thing that you do really like bouncing in Fujimi is its back row, and this does allow you to bounce back
Right.
row, which
Yeah.
is really, really
There
important.
there are a lot of decks that have back row now.
Yeah, like a lot of decks that maybe aren't, top meta picks, but are certainly a threatening back row. You've got things like Sympho Gear, you've got things like
So
um yes, SAO, anything with a level 3 support really. As well as well, this is just a very good catch-all package for things that might be causing you issues. Even just level X's, like against something like Saikano, for example, if you bounce their level X, then that really sets them back in terms of power, and you can turn like 1-5 is a really weird number against for Saikano rather, and it can really turn a lot around, especially in the late game. But let's not go too specific. Point is, the bounce is really powerful against a lot of sets, minus Soul. So this deck, the ReZero deck,
Goblin Slayer.
uh, Goblin Slayer Pants builds, and rewrites, of course. Those would be the most commonly played ones. And I suppose Arisa Bang Dream, but I haven't seen that deck. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Phenology were
But
still
basically, yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is still in the meta, but
kind
it
of.
just I don't think it plays the minus soul build. Um, yeah, no, it's just a really good effect to have in any set, and the fact that Fate has it is definitely positive in its favor, and it makes it worth splashing yellow. Um, that would have been a nice segue to the stock bomb, but that's I'm going to rearrange them so we can
All right,
segue.
we can just talk about the stock bomb then.
Yeah, so
Is
speaking of yellow splash, one of the main reasons we play the stock bomb in the new set is simply because it's yellow and
also historically Fate has had very bad yellows
yeah,
that happen to be master. So
it,
master trade is
it's
actually very important.
exactly.
Uh,
So there are yellow masters, but there are very few that kind have reasonable utility and also kill things. The
well, the
only
killing thing.
other
I think the killing things part is not as important. It is certainly like a good part of the card, but I mean, people have been running yellow
uh,
killer to help you kill while
yeah, but
yellow.
that's not a good thing. Like the fact that
Yeah, of
this
course.
can just kill something is actually really beneficial, and the fact that it's a bomb is mitigated by, another very good yellow level zero in the set.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but yeah, this is it's not on my top cards list, is it? Because this card
no,
is thoroughly
it's on
average.
mine. Oh yeah, do we want to grade the Saber real quick?
I don't. It's like a B plus in it. Uh,
Well, I think plus might be. I think I'd give regular bouncers more like closer to like. It might be B plus now.
I think I'm probably
B
overrating it. I think it
plus.
is. It is around the B. Like it's fine. I think it's a lot weaker now because there's a lot less things aside from Fate exactly that need to be bounced. But the fact that it just catches a lot of random decks off guard as well is really beneficial. I'm
Uh,
just gonna leave it at B. I think
yeah.
that's fine. Whereas this Shiro, I'll read what it does. So it's level zero stock bomb. So it kicks your opponent to stock, then they put the bottom card to waiting room, and then when it's reversed, if you have two or fewer cards in memory, it can go to memory. So basically, it's like an average of one free memory a game. Because you'll depending on how many you play, if you play four, then you get
Could yeah.
probably
You could
you
definitely
get
go
like
out of your
three.
way back with this card,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
since it's a master.
absolutely.
You can just get it
But
off random houses and then get some a little bit of value.
it's fine.
Variable.
I
Your mileage may vary, but
yeah.
say something.
Oh no, 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 no. I'm just this is the sort of card that I don't really care for. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
an absolutely worthwhile inclusion when you factor in all the little things it does, but it's just not really a card I because the good card with this card isn't good. The good card is Avenger, or like
Yes.
the Shiro, the
That
Clock
is
Encore
true.
giving Shiro. This is just a card that happens to be improved more than average by Avenger, but I regard that as this card being somewhat subpar to begin with. I'm not saying it's a bad card. Like it's
Well, I
it's
don't know.
obviously playable.
Some cards just completely. There are some cards that just completely change, right? In terms
Hmm.
of how strong they are, what they can do
Well,
for a
this
deck. What
this
depending on
this
certain
is one of those
synergies. Yeah,
cards.
this is one of those cards. So, which is why like
I'm
we're giving it probably a higher grade than a card like this. Historically, we've
yeah,
given cards like this.
I still would give it a C. I'm just giving it C plus
Yeah.
because it happens to be fine in the context of the deck. But it's like it's a card I'm happy to see in like the first hand or so. But later on, I really
Yellow.
don't. It is
Talking
yellow,
yellow,
but
right? This
yeah,
is a four
it's
color
yellow and
deck. I would
yes,
I would like to make that clear.
yeah,
Having a
it's
high amount of yellow, you could just like have in your hand, back pocket, the clock for the bouncer, watch turn.
it's it
It is a
yeah, and
play
having
sometimes.
a higher density of yellow just means you're more likely to naturally have it as well,
Yeah.
which is it's going to matter in a non-zero number of games. I wouldn't say it's incredibly significant, but I also think it's definitely worth considering.
I think Fate's a good enough deck that you can definitely prioritize getting those like really small edges, as many
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
can.
Well, the
Definitely
fact that
not.
it
Huh?
has to spread over four colors though, which is like
Yes.
it's emblematic of it having a lot of good cards, but
Also being
you
an
are
alt
kind of
set.
stretching. Yeah, you're stretching real hard to accommodate a lot of the cards.
Yeah.
I don't think we can deny that. Anyway, it's like a fine card. I think it's fine to run. I think some people have swapped to running the Sakura Clock Bomb instead because it does a similar thing. I'm it's whatever. It's fine. Let's talk about a card that I I think is still sorely underrated. Because people aren't playing it very often. This is
Hmm.
Shiro. It's a Climax combo. Um, it is a level zero, and
Yes.
it has Climax combo. When it attacks, if you have the only way back in your Climax zone and you have five or less stock, you may look at up to three cards from the top of your deck, add a master or servant character from among them to your hand, and ditch the rest. And it also has when damage dealt by this is cancelled, you may pay one to draw a card. So the reason this card is strong is not inherently because of any of its text on it.
because
It's
of
because of the text on the
climax.
climax. The climax is a two-soul climax. So historically speaking, we have not had very many um
Full plussing combos.
baggage, yeah, baggage-free two-soul plussing combos. Especially not on cards that also have innate ways of plussing just by existing and attacking.
Also a
Uh,
master.
yes, works
Very
well with
important.
works very well with Avenger, meaning
And
if you
Augustin.
somehow draw, yeah, if you
Oh
draw
yeah.
multiple two-soul combos, then your opponent is sorry, two-soul climaxes. Your opponent's going to be very upset for the first couple of turns of the
Oh
game.
yeah. It's just
But, like the
card leads to
math,
so many lopsided
yeah, you get
like
so much advantage sometimes. So the typical counterpoint for two-soul combos is you're overswinging and your opponent's not gonna eat the damage and you're gonna be back where you started. The thing is, if you do this early on, like turn two, for example, it's not actually a big deal. They weren't
it's
expecting.
crazy because you could go +2 per copy of it that turn.
Yeah, you absolutely could. If
Uh,
they cancel, then you just well, you're paying a little stock, but
it's like
you're
the loop.
going.
You're
It's a very
attacking.
cheap plus
Yes, that's like
in a deck
that's the
that
crazy part. Card.
yeah, like and the thing about like if you get some of the pieces together, each copy of this climax combo character is reusable. So that puts a like straining to reuse combos. Like anyone who's played a deck like Yuki Sao, for example, will know how they have to think pretty hard in order to try and loop combos. Nowadays, there's a lot of cards like the new, like the Saikano Kato, for example. That card is makes looping ludicrously easy.
Ah.
But this is also a ludicrously easy loop if you're willing to take a bit of extra. And we haven't even talked about like the math behind why two soul combos are good. Basically, if your opponent has a sufficiently randomized deck, 8 and 50, chances are like the number of attacks that stick on average is like 1.4 or 1. It's above 1 basically.
Might be closer.
Yeah, I think it might be close to 2 depending. Yeah, look,
If you're
I
direct attacking, it's even better,
yes,
which you probably are because
because
it's level 0.
yeah, there's just no downside to this if you're attacking with a two soul direct at level 0. Either they stick at level 0,
Or they
which
cancel.
was the
Get
expected outcome,
lots of
and
cards. Yeah.
yeah, if they stick, or they just take the damage and then they're accelerated to level 1. And then unless there are some decks that don't mind being accelerated to level 1, but those are also the decks that don't really want two soul attacks to hit them in the face. So there's not a huge downside to playing this card at all. It might seem like a really sacky, dumb card, but in reality, it's actually one of the safest two soul combos that's ever been printed. Particularly when you take into account your ability to like manage your board state with the Avenger Clock Encore. The reason this isn't played in like every single Fate deck is simply because, in my opinion anyway, the value of having 8 bars in a deck that runs a lot of ways to abuse the bars as just raw cards is much higher than the swing games where Shiro single-handedly wins you the game on like turn 2, which
Right.
is I'm not going to say it's going to be common. Like it'll be maybe one fifth or less of your games where you just instantly win. But the thing is, there's not really many games where you lose out, and that again, this is all because the Avenger Shiro is a nutty card. But you can't really go wrong with this. I think that
Yeah, I think this
this is a
works
card that
in a lot of decks.
yeah,
Right
it
now
just
it's not.
works.
Right now the meta isn't going to be. Right now it's people are not trending in a way that favors this card. But I think so. I think there are going to be future sets for Fate. Um, this is definitely a card to look out for. As we
And
look at future cards, because I think this card could easily become the marquee card of a deck. We just haven't seen uh those cards yet. We haven't seen. There could be a deck right now that features this card that's really good, but people aren't really exploring this this route that the deck could take very well. I think.
I don't think so either. There's a lot of right now, I think more than ever before, there's a lot of stigma about your triggers needing to plus you
Right.
or basically a lot of anti-aggression early. I don't think there's ever been as many
For good reason.
stallies. There are many stally slow decks right now. There's Memory Psychano, there's Fates. The only deck that I classify as actually aggressive is Love Live Sunshine, and that's actually I think on the downtrend. It is high up in representation, but a large part of that is due to its fan base, and I think it is actually down somewhat. It's very reasonable to want a more stable game state and more stable, but I also think that right now, more decks than there should be have a top end game plan of do nothing. Except like which is Psychano. People you might think Psychano has a combo, but trust me, that's really Psychano, Fate, Albuda, Ujimi. These are all decks that just kind of sit there and don't really do anything to finish the opponents, unless they're not going to lose out on resources doing so. And I think this is the sort of combo which can really, if you take the momentum and run with it, you can really do scary things. And I think you should definitely. It's an uncommon. There's no reason not to just take this card into your collection and let it sit there, even if we're wrong. It's really
Yeah.
cheap. Just a really good card. Yeah, I think A minus is probably fine. It might be overrating it, but at the same time, the raw power of
I
this
think
card is
I
just,
think this card
it's
is
insane.
in.
Like,
So if we're talking about, I would rate this an A minus. And
yeah, it's fast mill. It's potential multiple pluses on one card. I wouldn't give it A minus in every set because one of the major terrifying things
oh
about this
sure.
card is that it's repeatable with Avenger, which means every copy of it just kind of sticks if you wanted to. Meaning, if you draw two souls, I know that's not a high chance, but if you do,
Not that. It's not that unlikely.
that it's not like a bad chance. It's probably like a maybe a 15 to 25% of games, I'd say. Somewhere around that range. Uh, Having this on the field with Avenger means you're getting more Climax combo attacks off than the average deck, and that adds up, and that's terrifying.
Right.
Anyway, let's move on. Now we've got a section on my top yellow cards, two of
Basically,
which
this two of
are
which are the same.
yeah,
You don't have
two,
to
two of them the same. Yeah, I don't like the absence of the stock bomb on my little list is simply because I think the stock bomb's a role player rather than an actively great card. And as soon as I say that, I realize one of the cards listed here is like a role player and not an actively great card. No, I'm doing this Shiro a disservice. So this early play Shiro, right? It is a 3/2, comes into play early. If you have two or fewer climaxes in your waiting room, it gets a negative 1 level in hand. Come and play, check top 3, add 1, and put the rest in the waiting room. And then choose one of, when this attacks, you can give one of your characters 500 times the number of other Master or Servant characters. So basically, on attack, give something 2k or sometimes 1/5. Now, the reason this card is merely a role player is because it doesn't do anything great. Like it has a lot of things that I appreciate in early play. It's got a reasonably easy condition. It's got a cantrip on play, meaning that even it's not very big, so it's not expected to survive, but a cantrip. So you're paying 2 and getting your 2 soul attack, and you're getting a card back, which is fine. And then it has a little bit of bonus value in that it has the like a Shimakai type effect on attack pump something, which can be very useful in any deck featuring, for example, uh, look, even the Rider, like the Green
2/1.
Rider level
Yeah.
2, the Free Fresh becomes an actual card that can sometimes beat over things. Uh, and of course, if you have other random level 1s lying around, they can start outclassing opposing level 1s by a significant margin. It is unfortunate that this card can't pump itself, because that would mean you'd be able to force counters from most standby decks. But at the same time, it adds enough value from all of its other effects that I'm happy putting it here, but only in concert with the other card that I'm about to talk about, the one in the little corner on the bottom right. So this event, the Suppressed Power of Heroic Spirits, is a 2/1 event that lets you search your deck for a copy of the Shiro, and then it would have been so nice if you put it into play, but it's not quite that good. You add it to your hand and then send this card to memory. And then while this is in memory, it gives the Shiro early play the ability to accelerate and add a Climax card from your deck to your hand. So the reason this is good is simply because Climax Search is really, really rare, basically. It's not a thing that you see in most sets, and you don't even want it in most sets, because searching as opposed to salvaging a Climax means that you're taking a Climax that you can cancel with out of your deck.
Yeah.
However,
Usually it means the value of the climax you search has to outweigh on basically. I mean, there's like it also not just for canceling, but like it could take a climax out of your deck that you could hit.
yes.
So you have to
The
weigh the what you give up search for a climax.
yes. It's not like an absolute downside either, though. Like, for example, if you have, say, 6 or 7 cards left in deck, there's a Climax in there. If you accelerate, then in the vast majority of, well, maybe not vast, but in the majority of situations, you're going to end your turn with like 1 card in deck, and you're not going to have triggered that, assuming you play it. Of course, you may not play it. There are other uses for the Climaxes you search, but either way, the reason this is so powerful is simply consistency. So this card makes a lot of other cards a lot better because now you can get climaxes basically on demand, depending on how much pain you're willing to take.
Dude, I
So
had a
you've got like,
sick deck that ran 5 climax combo, 3
oh
climax
my
combos.
god,
No, was it 4? No, I think it was 4. It was 4 climax combos
yeah, I
that I
could
used to
see that.
start. It was sick.
Like
It was
climax
really good.
combos, the ones you might like the obvious ones you'd consider pairing with this immediately are, for example, the Rider level 3. There's the Shiro from UBW2, the pseudo restand summon combo. Uh, there's every single Rin combo, which usually is a burn of some sort. And I think the spiciest one, and this is not, I don't think it's good, but it's very spicy, is the Fate Zero Gilgamesh combo, where you ditch the specific Enuma Elish climax from your hand in order to remove your opponent's climax combo. So again, I don't like reactive plays very much. I think they're generally worse than proactive plays, but I have to mention it, right? Because someone's going to think realize that and think it's awesome, and it is pretty
It is
cool.
cool. There isn't really much ice shorts that like that for action on
And it absolutely, and that is valuable. I think the other one I haven't mentioned is the Gilgamesh combo, where you just go
2-1, right?
full aggression,
Yeah.
yeah, and you just the 2/1 where you just burn them out.
There are some good search for one of the row IS combos.
Yes, you absolutely could.
Um,
One or both, like if you have
yeah.
both on field, because that's like a
Anti
weapon
burn.
based
It's
deck
anti
anyway.
burn and anti.
Yes. And let's not forget you can also search for more two souls for your two soul combo if you desperately need cards for whatever reason. But of course, that obviously comes with like I mean, actually, that's not too bad a play. If, for example, your deck is say 2 climaxes in 15 or whatever, then getting that climax and getting the fast mill is not the worst idea I've ever heard of. It's I wouldn't call it a good idea, but it's
That
there.
play probably is less good.
I agree with that.
We're gonna rate.
Yes. Look, this card, it's not actually that good. So this the early play is like a C, C plus. And then the event is like probably a B or B minus.
I think
Uh,
so. Like, if this event could have been really, I think.
mm,
Uh,
it,
if the early play were a bit.
I think so. Like even if look, you could tweak any of these little things very slightly. The early play, if it could pump itself. If the events, like if it put the card onto the field, for example, like if it was a 2-2 event that put the early play onto the field, for example.
From your deck?
I yes, from the deck. I would call that quite strong,
That would be
even
really strong.
though even you'd have to tweak the early play to like also activate on
Like
the
by the
effect
end.
of the events.
Yeah.
Yes.
Imagine if this
But
heals.
yes.
It was a healer or
Um
something.
I think that will be fine. But given that look
Be really good. I think it'd
is
be really good.
is there an alternate accelerate cost? Like, can we accelerate and ditch a card from
No,
hand
I
instead?
don't think so.
That would be
I think it's almost
insane.
fucking.
Yeah, there's always a clock variant of some sort. But anyway, this design is very close to being extremely overpowered, and I think we have entered the era of Bushiroad design being slightly more adventurous without being absurdly broken. Um, I say this looking at recent sets like Saikano, which, despite what people might say, is not actually that broken. It's just really obnoxious to play against, as well as decks like the new Love Live, for example, which is quite powerful, but not overwhelmingly so. And of course, Fate, which is powerful in a very unique way, which we'll definitely discuss quite soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the design is actually not bad. But yeah, I'm only going to give this a B minus. It is really powerful. Right, green cards. We discussed this before the cast, and we kind of have like the same top green cards. So we're just gonna quickly talk about them. This Sakura Brainstorm, it is a salvage brainstorm, self tap, so it ticks those boxes. And then when you trigger a bar, you may instead discard that bar, and so you
Discard
resolve the
anything.
bar, right?
There's all the bar.
Yes.
You stock or not.
Yeah, you choose to resolve the ability, and that may include discarding the bar you just triggered to get a card you'd prefer to have in hand from your clock, and then you clock the top card of your deck. So it's
Any
like,
card, by the way. You can grab
yeah,
events and other climaxes with this effect. With this
yes.
effect.
And given that the Japanese version of the deck runs 5 events, and the English version will run 2 or more, and also has irritating color issues a lot of the time, I would say this is exactly what the deck wanted. And even though this is not a card that is you so desperately want every game that you play 4, I think a lot of people have gone down to 3. I think it is the
I
glue.
think you do want 4 though. So like, I can talk a little bit about this when we're
You
talking
you
about this card. So the interaction with Avenger, right? Uh,
mhm.
we can think of Avenger as a sort of clean as a clean cut
Oh
that does
no,
not
that's
require a
so bad.
reverse. I think that's
Yeah.
actually a pretty good comparison.
hmm
So it just means that running more of a really important card that you'd like to have every game, especially at level 0, is just super good. It makes I
Mm.
think running 4 of this card is just I would not run go down to 3 for most things, honestly, because I think being able to
Look,
attack with this card at 0 and have it be clock on court is very important. Because
yeah.
like you could like there aren't uh pocket coring is still like a cost, still something, still you're still like taking a damage. So I think you'd much prefer your clock on core to have like some good value, and this is like one of the best value clock on cores you have at level 0. Honestly,
Well, again, you're singing the praises of Avenger here, not really the brainstorm, but
I mean they're both good. Like good cards make each other like great cards, right? So
look, I ordered 4 brainstorms from wherever it was I bought the cards from. I forget now. Probably UA, to be honest.
yeah, strictly broken TCG.
So I'm not yeah, this Mr. Sponsored. So I'm not on the free brainstorm side. I'm just saying that people have been cutting
Right.
it, and I do
I think they're
understand the
wrong.
sentiment. Like, yeah, I think that if you cut it for anything, short of an absolute key card, which you probably should have been playing to begin with, then I think you're getting too cute. You should just cards like this at 4.
The other cool
Um,
thing about this card is that so Fate has been a kind of trait troubled property for most of its history in Wise.
this is
Uh,
universal.
yeah, this gets anything. So this also helps out, a lot of it. Basically opens up deck building in a way that I thought think was not possible before, which I think is really cool. Like this is like
You
such a
know, even
generic profile, but it does so much to help out this set or this.
even in this set, they still have trait restricted brainstorms. Like
Yes, it's actually
the
that's really
Ilia
its name, right? I think his name and trait.
Ilia is Ilia is blue cards or Shiro, I
Uh,
believe. It's like
ugh,
it's just really obnoxious.
ugh,
But yeah,
it's gross. This
it's
card
something that
is
yeah,
something
it's
the
something
set has
that
used for a while.
might not be obvious to the casual onlooker because of how readily every set gets universal or specific trait universal brainstorms.
Privilege.
Yeah, but this is a big boon for Fate players. Even though this is in a look, I don't think green splashes into many other decks easily.
No, that
But
you are
this
right
actually
about
gives
that.
you a really good green splash for cards like the stock swap.
Oh yes.
So
I mean,
I
it
can
also helps
definitely
fulfill the
appreciate
condition
that.
for that card too, because it requires green on the board.
Yes, it does. And that I think the stock swap is good for a number of reasons, but this brainstorm is definitely more than it seems to be, but it's still just glue. It's not,
Yeah.
it's high quality glue. It's connoisseur's glue, but it's still just glue. And look at A plus. That sounds about right. All right. Let's talk about a card that is probably overrated by basically everyone, including me. The level 3 Rider. It's a 3/2 heal with Climax combo of when it attacks, if you have the Rider bar in the Climax zone, you may pay 2 ditch card. If you do, this gains the abilities the character opposite cannot front attack, and the character opposite gets neg 3k power. So, to me, this is emblematic of um, people's people don't necessarily look at a deck's end game plan. They look at a deck's end game climax comp. And then if they went in doing that, they kind of define the deck around that. And I don't really think that applies with this particular deck with Rider. I
Hmm.
think that people go far too hard on Rider and that people like I've discussed with people and they say, oh, triple Rider is like a back-breaking turn. And I kind of look at them and say, yeah, it's
Really,
back-breaking
I
for
don't think
you.
people can't. No way. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, no, no. The thing
uh,
is, these are people who haven't, played the deck and realize that when you do that, you end up with this, 3/3/3, and you don't have any hand, and you don't have any
uh,
good dig, and it's like
I do think
you.
single rider turns are a little underrated actually,
I
by a
think,
lot of
and
players.
I think free rider is like not something that
Super
actually happens.
overrated, yeah.
I,
But I
I,
think
I just don't think it
people.
happens.
Well, I also think people kind of. Uh, I mean, people kind of treat the double rider turn the same way. Honestly, they're like focused on the
Mm,
setup. Um, but Fate is a deck that can run its level 3 in a lot of different ways. Um, can play, and I think it's like super context dependent a lot of the time. Sometimes you should hold off on playing Rider simply because resources you might need the resources for something else next turn, like event or something. So
or
single Rider turns, huh?
you could just play rider and then not
Oh
use
yeah,
the
you could
climax
just heal. Yeah,
combo.
you could just heal. Yeah. Um, Yeah. Oh, sorry. And this is a deck that this deck that Rider goes in is also like a very it's a deck that compresses very well and happens to continue maintaining good compression throughout most of its refresh cycles. So getting less doing like a single rider turn isn't necessarily a bad thing for this deck. What I want to like come away with from this discussion about the card. But
Um, what you're kind of implying, but I don't think is clearly obvious, is that every time you use Rider, you're decompressing.
yes, that
So,
is true.
like, if you don't specifically need actual damage mitigation at that point in time, and you are at the point where you aren't, if you're swimming in stock and you have a full 7 cards, because your opponent has,
Yeah,
done nothing for the past 3 turns, but they also have been canceling,
there are quite a
then
few
yeah,
decks
you
that
can.
just can't really kill you if even with like a single rider out. So I
But if
think
they
huh?
the goal of so Fate as a deck, like we can talk about the deck really,
Oh sure.
is that all you need to do is make sure you don't die from 3-0 against
Yes.
most decks. Because not only do you have a 3-3 event, which basically nullifies everything the opponent's been doing for a turn, but you play like 4 to 6 heals, depending on both deck build and language.
Yeah.
And you have further potential to mitigate more because, again, it's an 8-bar deck, and you can loop the combo sometimes. The goal isn't to like play the climax combo over and over and over. The goal is to not die. And if all you need to do to not die is to resolve one rider, or even resolve no riders despite playing a rider on the board and deciding you want to put some damage, then that's what you should do. You shouldn't just
Yeah.
thoughtlessly use all your resources that you've been slowly building up over the game in order to do something that you didn't even need to do. Like, if they were going to hit you for like 2 damage, you can probably heal it down really easily and then reset your deck so that you're likely going to cancel at least once, if not twice, without Rider needing to. So I guess what I've been getting at, I don't know if that's, well, I just think that Rider is it's a supplement to the deck's endgame. It's not an absolute necessity for the endgame to resolve as many times as possible. That being said, it is a really powerful
It is
effect.
yeah. It is like I would call it premium damage mitigation. Not
Yeah,
many sets like say have a card like this.
yeah. Like
Um,
not only can you sometimes deny people even the stock gen of getting a front attack into Rider, but because sometimes they don't have anything that can breach 3K power. But you can also deny a lot of things, including on reverse combos and the like,
right.
simply because they can't front.
Yeah, I mean historically these like minus soul type combos have been kinda mediocre for the most part. Mainly because for a couple of reasons, but one of the big ones was they just can't win board very easily. Oh shit! That was my mic stand. But uh, they can't win board very easily against a meta that is compared to like the power levels of that minus soul card. I think a good example is like Priestess, Goblin Slayer Priestess. A lot of Goblin Slayer players, Japanese format, have stopped playing Priestess mainly because it's just so easy to
You just
kill that
can't keep
card.
them
Yeah,
alive.
you just can't keep them alive. Live another.
You
That is
gotta,
not a problem with
you,
this card because this basically guarantees if you get the combo off and it wins
or
on
you
offense,
literally,
they
yeah,
literally
unless they
cannot.
flicker it.
Yeah, unless they flicker it, which is like not that like that
No
effect
one's,
isn't
no
being
one's,
the
there's
effect
not
isn't being
enough
put on good
targets.
cards. The effect isn't
Yeah,
being
like
put
there's
on
not,
good cards. So
well, it doesn't have to be put on good cards. Basically, well, do you mean like Rider? Like, there needs to be more in Neg Soul and stuff like Rider in order for Flicker to be worth a spot in a deck,
well,
not
or the
just.
cards that have flicker have to be better.
Okay, sure. If it was tacked onto a Ricky, for example, then yeah, sure.
Amazing.
Yeah, like if it was, then look, that'd be fine, and that would make this card significantly worse, especially if it was like, if the slime Ricky is great, but pretend for a moment that the slime Ricky had like flicker instead of its other fixing ability. That would make Rider significantly worse because slime is not only played, but it's also a deck that plays its Ricky. So but it's not common, and therefore Rider is going to do its job, but its job is not like the end. Um, Basically, your deck has a game plan, and the game plan can happen with or without your level 5 comp, and people need to understand.
Yeah.
Speaking of game plan that isn't actually your game plan,
Oh yeah.
um,
Another
our
one.
other Climax combo, yeah, our Sakura Irreplaceable Existence, except she's ironically very replaceable in this particular deck. It's a 1/0/5/5 basically.
Need a Shiro,
The
but
the
good
condition
thing
is Ashiro,
you
but
have
event
happen to have a really broken Shiro card that you run at 4,
yeah,
like every
the
phase
Avenger is
ends.
Ashiro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the battle opponent is reversed, if you have Sakura Bar, then search your deck for a Master or Servant. So it's basically 6/5 Shimikaze. If you get it, great. If you don't, that's fine. The next card is what you want to do anyway. Um, this card is the reason you still play it, despite me making it out to be filler, is because when this card does go off, it's good. Like it sets you up really well. It's really strong and does things that are good for your game. But
Combo
if
with
you
the
don't
bar
get
is
it,
also very good.
yes,
Um, bar is like
bar is
super
a
good in this deck concept.
we can talk about the very next card, which is one of the reasons bar is so good.
Well, I also
Uh,
one quick thing onto the bomb, I guess. That this can be Clock Concord, also potentially super good because
mm-hmm. Well,
happen to get
that's a way of
really lucky.
plussing.
It makes your good games even better because at level 1, like a sack.
Yeah,
You had this on the board. You can just Clock Concord and go, which is
and
honestly kind of
yeah,
insane.
yeah, and if you get double combo, then that's we alluded to it with Shiro, but like double combos lights out.
It's like a costless +2 at that point.
You no longer have to worry about getting cards or
Yeah,
storms. You're done.
it is quite.
Yes, it is a solid card, but again, it's not as irreplaceable as its name suggests. Uh, but an actual irreplaceable card. This card is, oh my god,
It
again, this is
is.
all, it's all because the stupid Avenger Shiro is so good, not because this card is inherently broken. But it is
Uh,
really good as well.
it is really
In
good.
context, it is fantastic. So 1/0 Sakura, Distorted Everyday Life. When you play this from hand to stage, you can ditch a climax, like the 8 bars you may, if you do, you can salvage a Master or Servant. So this is yet another way of turning the bars you trigger into selectivity. Between this and the Brainstorm, you've got very good selectivity. Just you don't even have to do anything. You just have to attack, and then you'll eventually have good selectivity without any issue. And then when it's reversed, if your opponent is cost 0 or less, you can kick that card to clock. Sorry, you can remove the top card of their clock and then kick this to their clock. Worth noting for some people who might not be familiar, if they don't have any cards in clock, so they're at 1/0 or
Doesn't work.
2/0, it just does not do anything, which is bad.
That is
But
bad. That's
that
very
is
hard to like engineer though.
yes. Basically, the opponent, like unless you have misplayed and not kept that in mind, it's very difficult to encounter that situation without going out of your way.
Yes.
Or your opponent needs to cancel a lot and then
Extreme. Well,
decide
not a
not to block.
lot. They have to cancel very specifically.
Sure, they have to cancel in
Like,
a very not particularly likely way.
yeah. Uh,
So the reason this card is good, I guess,
this
is
card is. Well, you can continue. There's a lot of reasons
like
this card is good.
we've shit on bombs a lot, like a lot, a lot, a lot. I think that we might have started the movement of bombs being complete ass, but this card in a deck with the Master Shiro can be absolutely mortifying for your opponent to face. So picture, say, you have tri-fielded turn 2 or whatever, and your opponent has decided, yeah, well, I've got to match that. I'm going to attack you, and they hit you to 1. Now at this point, what you can do is you can do something that Love Live Sunshine players have been doing for quite a long time. You can pre-field bombs, so when your opponent quote unquote wins field, they don't actually win field unless they are exactly 1/0. What ends up happening is that They attack in with whatever card it is. It's probably going to be costless because that's just, good wise cards are costless.
Yes.
And then they will either be kicked to clock and leave an empty lane, or they will be unable to reverse this because, well, sometimes there's going to be a 1-1 somewhere, but that happens sometimes. But in most lanes, they are just not going to have any presence for at least that turn, if not longer. And the really messed up thing is, if you cancel, you get to clock encore and put them in the same situation again.
Or, I
And
mean, the other fucked up part is if your opponent is like, say there's another level of this where your opponent's like, well, I guess I'll just attack with, like, normally, like, see, this would happen to Sunshine, right? Sometimes pre-fielded bombs are also not that great in the past for this reason. Your opponent can just basically, like, jump your bombs,
yeah,
right? By attacking with low value cards. That's not possible this card because if you just chump for and don't play Climax or whatever, and they can just clock encore these,
there's
and
clock
now you're
encore, and
yeah
then
now you're just looking at
the
another
same
like
situation.
you haven't like you've only like prolonged you've only put off um inevitable, honestly.
Yeah. And
um
you might consider that like forcing them to clock encore is, some people consider that a win, but you're also opening up lanes to be
yes.
directed in. And again, proactivity is better than reactivity because one, they aren't compelled to clock encore. They may choose not to. That's not something they have to do, but they have the option of doing so. And that's extraordinarily powerful because then they get to attack into direct lanes. And that's just dumb. As an aside, this also really messes with a lot of combos. Like, for example, the
Bang
new
Dream.
Saikano combo. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So Fever Bang Dream is one that
oh,
immediately comes to mind
it's
because,
so messed
yeah,
up.
when they front into you, they don't immediately get any. Fever activates at the encore step, but they're not going to be there for the encore step. They're going to be kicked to clock and then maybe kicked to waiting room. So their advantage combo is now not
But
an
they
advantage
have to
combo.
front, and they have to front to even like
Exactly.
attempt to get the plus.
Yes.
The really
Yeah,
screwed
because
up
unless,
part about
well,
this.
if you don't try field, then they can
Yeah.
maybe get a 1+. And if they don't front and they side, then fantastic. They've mitigated damage and they've given you pluses.
I mean, they don't even
Fantastic.
get the fever.
That's right, because you're
Have
going
to
to
reverse
have
every lane.
non-reversed
Yeah,
cards.
yeah.
Yes, so that's just terrible for feet. Yeah. The other ones that are just really terrible are the bounce back combos. So,
Yes.
um,
AOTs.
AOT's Eren. So AOT is a little less affected because they do get a plus up front.
Yeah. Psychono, on the
But
other hand.
yeah,
Um.
Saikano. Well, look, Saikano is going to twin drive their way through everything, and maybe they'll get their pluses by trick maxes, but they're still very, very unhappy when they're unable to loop their combo. Because if you play the Saikano deck with Kato, then you'll know it's actually just the deck that revolves around.
Yeah, and if they keep
And this,
siding, it's like
yeah, like
they're just trading
that's a complete
resources at that
that
point.
that's a complete joke. You don't even have to play Climax. You can
You
just
don't even have to
front
spend
attack them
stock.
each time. It doesn't matter. You are plussing, they are plussing, and if they're playing that specific deck, then your end game actually is. So that's not really a concern from your point.
Yes.
Um, Now so and of course it turns AOT into an honest deck. Like now they actually have to work for their advantage. And the thing about AOT is that it's not built to be an honest deck. It's built to be a deck that crutches on Eren, and Eren carries them the whole game. And then this neuters half of Eren, and then they're very upset. It's also just good against things like Goblin Slayer, which rely on having their cards sit on the field and get incremental advantage.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and
Milky.
it's just not going to happen.
That.
Milky is very, very upset about this. Like they can't even, off-time Makoto doesn't even do anything against this. It's
No, it
like,
doesn't.
oh my God, I masked into this. That feels awful, man.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's just a lot of like this just swings the tempo in your favor so drastically that I think in combination with, of course, the most broken card in the set, the Shiro Avenger, this is actually the reason you should be playing the set, and I'm going to give this an A+
The
because of
other thing
that.
about this card we haven't really talked about that much. We touched on it a
The
little
fi
bit.
The
that other
fixing.
effect. Yeah, the fixing. So
It's so good.
uh we haven't really seen too many 8-bar decks with access to this effect actually. I think the only other one is Vivid Strike. And
Hmm.
that deck's bomb is off color. It's red.
Yes.
This is the first bomb of its kind that is on color with an 8-bar deck. And I think it's hard to really understand how powerful this kind of selection is in an 8-bar deck. So you've played it.
Your bars, your
But
bars become
basically,
gates.
yeah,
Except
you're
you don't have to pay
basically
the
they
mouse.
don't they're not just gates though. They're like gates with they're like modal gates,
Yeah.
right? You can choose to with every bar trigger you can choose to get a card in your clock. You can
Or
choose
keep
to
the climax.
or keep the climb. Yeah, and you can also at every step of the way you can except for with this card, you can ditch you can keep the climax for global soul, right?
Yeah,
If the game state is like good for it. Or you can just
it's
ditch
like
that
a really
climax for a character that
it's like a messed up gate that can also get from your clock and also get climaxes.
it's the real choice
It's
trigger.
so dumb. It's the yeah, it's the best choice trigger.
Um,
Oh my god.
and
Yeah.
this kind of card really also scales really well with player skill and the time you put into learning a deck. Uh,
Ooh.
there are so many. I mean, because there's so many there's so many ways. Uh, so many things you can do right with every bar trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think this deck really rewards player comfort, like comfortability with you know
The deck.
piloting the deck. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to know like well, there's not one correct option every single time. Like some
Yes.
people prefer to hedge and salvage free fresh. Some people prefer to uh they have different ideas for the end game and they prefer to get a healer or they prefer to get, some people like two Sakura 3/2s.
Yeah.
Um there's a lot of things you can do and this enables all of them. And in doing so, it really elevates the skill ceiling of the deck, to allowing people who understand what matchups are about, to get the resources and selectivity they need to take advantage of it. And while sometimes it might not show, it'll definitely show in the long run.
Yes.
Okay, I think we've talked enough about this card. Oh, the other good thing about this card is that the art, um, uh, after your opponent has dealt with it once, that is now their expression every time you try field this.
Distortion of their everyday.
Distortion of their game plan. Next card is Rider, Anti-Hero Cavalry. She's at 216k. And you're probably thinking that she's going to be some sort of level 3 killer. And you're not wrong. Basically is. 216k on your turn for each of your other characters with Master or Servant gains 1k power. So basically it goes to being a 10k on your turn. When another Master or Servant attacks, this gains 1/5 for the turn. So it goes to 13k after 2 attacks, or 11/5 attack 1.
Mhm.
And if you kill level 2 or higher battle opponent, you may stock the top card of your deck. Um, I think that this card is again simply a really powerful role player, but not only is it's in the same vein as like what's his name, the standby target board. It's like a very functional card that you might play anyway, but then it also just happens to build further resources for you for no discernible reason. And that's where it goes from being like a strong card to a card that's like you can tell somebody on the team really liked what's her name, Kobayashi Yu. Somebody really
Nice.
liked her.
Yeah. uh, this card really solves a problem Fate has had for a really long time. Is that couldn't really deal with early plays.
You just can't fight at level like
Level 2, yeah.
it could not do anything unless you went into weird different decks that
I it didn't
I
really
have
have
seen
much. It didn't really have
I
much.
have seen people play the UBW TD Ridden Archer
Yes.
in their
Uh,
desperation to find a card to like fight EPs. It was like the dumbest thing.
when you're desperate,
It's like,
You do crazy stuff.
uh,
But
so
you know,
yeah,
finally,
this
super high
it's a powerful
quality
role player.
attacker. Yeah, it's super high quality. This also happens to randomly destroy the level two, like the decks that early play level twos at level one, which I find
Hmm.
very funny.
Yeah, it's like anti-standby tech for no discernible reason.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah. Sorry,
they,
standby. But I was thinking more of the summer pocket style decks. But this also really loves to attack into level two standby target. As of
yeah, like because like again, I'm referencing Psychono because I put a bunch of time to that deck. But they printed a 1/0 Eri which gets like an obscene amount of power when you fight a level two. This is like that. It comes out a little later, but it just happens to be really good for the same reason, and it even refunds stock. So it's
yeah.
just, I don't know, like why does it refund stock? It didn't need to refund stock. There was no reason that had to happen. But I guess like Fate deserves it after suffering so very, very long. I mean, TD Rin Archer, man. Like, do you know what that card does? This is
Yes.
so bad.
Yes.
It's
I know that
so
card.
bad. The art's nice at least. Anyway, next card. Ooh, this card is uh this is the sort of card I always want to play, but it's never correct to play it. Except now. It's correct to play this card. This card is obscene. I don't know
I mean,
why they printed that last
this
effect.
card could be good in any deck.
What is the point? What is the point of printing that last effect? Like, there is no reason to do that.
Because they needed good cards.
You know, every time I look at this, I'm reminded of the Nia from Gurren Lagann. But do you know where that Nia
That
taps
card
to
is
put
so much worse. It's
it taps to put a card in waiting room somewhere, but it just puts it into memory. No use for oh god, it's so. Anyway,
okay, that
this is a
card
3/2.
is 500 power, only 1500.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Wing Slayer demolishes this card, unfortunately. So this is a 3/2 assist, gives level X in front, not 2k, but that's okay. We don't need 2k.
Not even 1k level.
When you there's only like two of those. When you play this from hand stage or change into it, and let's just ignore the change is not a card that we need about.
Yeah, it's
You
just
may salvage. You can salvage a master or servant, and this is just you're just going to be salvaging a free fresh
super
enough of
good.
the time.
Well,
That's
you can salvage anything. That's what's super good about this card.
yeah, that's what's good about it. But
Uh, salvage
let's
on
be
a
real.
level. I mean, like salvaging on a level three is really good. I think.
Yeah, historically always has been, always
Yeah,
will be.
and then the
And then
final
the
thing.
really, which does not need to exist, by the way. You can rest this to add a character, master or servant from waiting room to a stock.
Oh, baby.
This is, I get that they are allowed to print that because it does not get to come down early. So it's like a one cost level X with a drawback of not being
The
early.
card all Fate players never knew they wanted. It was
Oh my
printed.
God. I've seen people, like, in fact, there's actually like I'm not going to point fingers at anyone, but there are people who cut this card, and I don't understand how they can play the deck and decide to cut the card. Like, God. And the rider like comes in and gives 1/5, the bond.
Yeah, there's a
Like,
bond to
it
also
also just
really
pumps.
really dumb, honestly.
Uh,
Um it's a ditch bond, not a stock bond. Better.
yeah, the
Um
ongoing resource generation. That this deck actually, if you want to stream riders, you need something like this in addition to a stockpile
right,
of
yeah. You can end the
stock and cards.
turn in end the turn with one stock. So if you start the turn with seven stock, you play double rider plus this card. You end the turn with one stock, you can do double combo next turn. Um
So dumb.
and seven
So
stock is
dumb.
super easy, so you're usually gonna have more stock. You can do like other stuff that's really stupid. Like you can like play another healer, so eight stock, you heal three times. You double combo, play this card. You get double combo next turn if you have the bar.
So dumb.
This card really opens up a lot of different opportunities for the deck at level three. Um, Suffice to say,
And the
this
fact
is like,
this
man, it's just there's not
this
it's like one of those meme cards you could create. Honestly, it's that good.
the the deck only runs like 5 actual character healers, but in running a card like this, it feels like it's running way more.
In oh yeah, oh yeah, you can salvage a card the first time you play this. Salvage healer the
There are
first time
so
you play this. Play over it, bond to it, then play it again.
dumb loops.
And you get stock every
Um,
time you play this card. By the way,
and well, no, you don't because you have to pay.
the second time, so you play it over it. I'm just saying it'll like generate stock, so it makes like playing it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
repeating, like looping it, even like less resource intensive than it might have been otherwise. I
People
think
meme about how you can like play over it with the bond, get it back, give
it's a
someone
real
one
play.
five.
It's a real play.
It is not a meme. You can actually pump something. You can loot these 2 cards just to pump.
It's just so
It
easy.
costs you
Yeah.
it costs you cards and stock, but like you can do it. It's a secret mode, and it's
Oh, I
I
mean,
don't know.
your this deck generates resources all game. You generate hand, you generate stock. A lot of it is for
No,
free.
it's not. It's not.
This is
Like
what it's. This is a lot
this
of what
is
it's for, honestly.
this is an
Along with the rush combo.
unnecessarily good glue in the late game. Like I don't know why this exists. Like it could have just
The
been
deck had to be
three
good.
two. It could have just been 3-2, 2K, give everything in front, like the clock
Memory
kick, like
kicker,
the clock
whatever. Sure.
the clock not memory kick, that's too strong right now, but like the clock swapping effect. Like it could just be that. But no, it has to be like a consistent resource generating engine in a deck designed not to die for 3 or 4 turns at the very least. Like, come on, man.
It's crazy how this card. This card also just lets you play super loose with your hand, and that is,
Ideally, you don't.
well, I mean, just it means you can. Other decks you probably can. Other decks with like cards like this rider, like other like super context sensitive cards, usually just can't. Really, you kind of like have to hold all your pieces, be prepared, right, for any situation. This card alone lets you be super flexible with what you keep. Um, and I think that's like another super good part about this card that doesn't get talked about as much because like the other text, like the literal text on this card is just super ridiculous.
Yeah, it's the optionality.
Yeah,
You pick up whatever you missed. That's all.
this is definitely an example of like options being just good because there's just all the options are super good.
It's not just option. It's like it's
It's
options,
everything.
and it's also just stock Excel for no discernible reason. Like, wow.
Oh, that had to be good, dude.
It
This is
comes so late
penance.
that you'd think it wasn't good because it came so late, but then you don't die for 3 turns, and you look at the Sakura and you wonder what the hell happened in our.
Games where you get two
Anyway,
of this out on the board are really fun.
yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. It's like you're playing kimono with none of the risk. All right.
That's it for green,
Back to
though.
that is green. It's had there are a bunch of other green cards and even some worth talking about that we haven't talked about, but that's okay. You can explore. It's a scary world out there, but all right, red. Um, so I was talking before the cast started about how red is weird. Red has no marquee cards that didn't already exist in. It just has a bunch of really viable support options.
That's a
So
good
we'll
way of putting
talk
it.
about the supporting options. Yeah, like these are all fine cards. I'm not surprised to see them in any given deck list, except one of them. Like I think one of them just kind of sucks, but
Yeah,
we'll talk about it.
talk about that card later.
Um, yeah. So it is on this list not by my choosing, but because Japan chose to decide it was good, and because a certain stupid Austrian guy kept talking about how good it was. So Salter, Cruel King of Knights, 002K. It is a 3/5 if you have 2 or less stock, and then it is a drop searcher for Master and Servant.
Oh,
Ooh,
oh, Christmas. Christmas
yeah,
is it's the holidays.
it is literal Christmas for me, actually.
Um,
Yeah, no,
tragically,
this
this is
is
not a master.
Sure, well, look, it has to stop somewhere.
No, you
Uh,
see that Sakura? It did not have to
yeah,
stop anywhere.
Sakura is where it had to stop. Green is where it had to stop.
Yeah.
Um,
And give a 5 top search.
the thing is, this card is just super high quality in that it is both an oversize and a drop search, like how the Megumin for from Sneaker Bunko was, and that's a great card. Um, this doesn't see very much play, not because it's a bad card, but because it's not a card you need. And I know
On a
this
map.
sounds, yeah, it just sounds weird given that, well, it's just such a high quality card, and like every deck wants to play red, right? But
Yes.
you don't, you don't need to play it. You just don't.
Yeah.
Like you can fit a couple in, and that's not something you can really object to fiercely, but you don't need to play it.
The problem with
It's,
this
it's
card
just
is that a lot of the function that a drop searcher usually has is just kind of co-opted by a lot of the other cards. Deck. The bomb is the most notable one, but like stuff like the Rider Bond, Sakura, the Sakura itself, uh, there are just no issues with selectivity at all.
And let's not forget that the other effect of this card, which used to be an oversized turn one plus, is also kind of superseded by the rest of the cards you
Right?
play.
Yeah, the Avenger.
Again, by
Every...
by your extremely stupid yellow card, which doesn't. God, look,
uh,
I own four SRs, and I'm starting to think that it exists.
the
Just
sad
take
that you were saying about Avenger.
it just shouldn't exist.
But it should. It's always existed. Come on, dude. Uh, sad part about this card is that it's probably just relegated to fifth copy of your Avenger, and that you do not draw it or get it off your Yazusa's level 0.
Yep,
That's honestly just really sad. And I'm the drop search guy. I'm the one saying this.
drop searches suck. Uh,
Well, it turns out
yeah,
when
no,
all your
this
cards are OP, you don't need a drop searcher.
it's not even all your cards OP. It's just the stupid Avenger making them all good. Yeah, no, the Salter is a good card. I don't fault anyone.
Yeah.
Rin's supervisor of Fuyuki. Oh God, this is like, I come from an age of Weiss Schwartz where a card with four abilities.
5 abilities.
Um, yeah, this is five, but I'm talking about when
Oh.
Kan Kole first dropped, and
Okay,
there's
boo.
a card called Yubari, which is it's like a 1/1. It's complete garbage. But they were talking about how novel it was that it had four abilities, and someone
Oh.
pointed out that there was a flavor reason it had four abilities, and that was the excuse they needed to give a card four abilities. Well, now
What's
we
the
live in 2019. I don't know, it's four equivalents or something.
I don't know.
Um, but I remember that very specifically. And then I read a card like this, which has it's not just four ability, it's not four abilities, it's five abilities, and all five are relevant to some degree.
The last one is
I'm
kind of not that
eh,
useful, but
Look, that's
the
fair. I
rest of
also
them
think
are.
yeah, I think the first one also has less relevance than
Yeah,
it needs to
that's
have.
also
Like
true.
you immediately think, oh well, AOT, but then you also think yeah, so Rin has five abilities. I'll talk about them in relative order of importance. The first one is the Amagi. When you play Climax, you can pay one, check top four, add a multiple servant to hand. The second most important is that gives 2k to itself during your turn, gives 500 to all of your other characters. Your opponent cannot play events from hand against this card specifically. And it also has pay one, kill one of your opponent's level 0 friends, which is far and away the least relevant one. Now that I think about it, yeah, it just is. Um, this card was hyped simply for being a Magi that also has further relevance. Anyone who's played SAO or I suppose
Mm.
Suba or basically anyone who's played an Amagi deck or a deck with Resonant Union knows exactly how good that can be. I am not a believer in this card simply because I don't think any set that has Avenger Shiro needs a. It's just not a necessity.
Um, not necessarily solely due to Avenger. I think
No,
the deck
no,
just
no. It has the selectivity through a bunch of cards,
yeah. I
but
mean, the deck also just ends up. The other thing about this deck and Amagi in general is just like if you're gonna spend stock, I think you'd rather fresh, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So that's the other funny part. Like instead of like paying one to mill with this Amagi, you could just mill for free with Billy Ozasas, then pay one, get that plus with the free fresh. Um, or you can just
Of
brainstorm.
course.
Way better selectivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um. So the need for, well, milling is not a need in this particular deck
Mhm.
because we have ours. So
Your bar
selectivity is not.
triggers can mill 3 every time
Yes.
if you.
Um. Is it three?
Yes.
Yes, it is three. God damn it. That's so stupid. Um. So you don't need milling. You don't need selectivity. You don't need the anti-event thing because every deck that plays events to a meaningful degree has a very
Was it mill?
significant problem. Well, it's mill one for the bar effect, and then the brainstorm will let you mill one more, so it's only two.
Yes. Milling 2. Sorry. Mill 2 every trigger.
Whatever, whatever. You have others, so like it's not
Yeah,
going to be a
that's
major
also.
issue. Um, and like it's a subpar attacker. 500 like global power is not particularly important. And like I was mentioning, decks that care about playing events from hand in battle, I have a real issue with the clock bomb. So even if this were green, for example, even if color were not an issue, I don't think this would be necessary. Now, this
um.
can certainly look, I think this can certainly have a role in other decks. Like I think in a yellow-red deck, perhaps this could certainly be quite relevant. You could definitely have it as um, one of your major advantage engines. But at the same time, like you don't need a Magi in a deck that runs the Tuso Shiro. So where does this card go? Like, is this a good card? I can't tell anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
See, this is why I said red had mostly role players.
I think
This is
this card
uh,
is like it's a victim of the similar. Sorry, it's suffering from the same affliction as that Shiro we talked about before. Wherein like deck building trends just aren't in favor of this card for a variety of reasons. Even though this like otherwise would be quite a solid card, even a good card, honestly. Um,
well, the thing is, even if we take that into account, the you'd rather be playing that Shiro over this, right? So
uh,
you'd have to go really deep before this becomes a card that you really want.
yeah.
Uh, the thing is, I've seen this card in lists, and I've been assured that it's a fine card. But at the same time, where? Why?
It's it's really funny to play this card against decks that are event.
I'm sure it is, but
I don't
what
disagree with
what
anything you said though about this card.
what decks like want to play events and also
You know,
are okay with the clock bomb on the field?
I'm talking about level 3.
Yeah, okay,
I'm talking about
fair
level
enough.
3.
Yeah,
It's really interesting there. You know,
that's fair.
funnily enough, I think standby decks would actually really like this card. Unfortunately, Fate was not given the privilege of having a standby.
Yeah, it didn't have to be baited down the route of playing a standby instead of 8 bar.
But in the future,
Gosh.
if they happen to print a standby for Fate, which would be really good, there are a lot of interesting cards in Fate. This could
Yeah,
become relevant again. This could become very relevant.
might not be garbage. You're
Yeah, I
right.
mean, it'll also be on color too. Fantastic.
Yeah, that I can agree with.
Yeah. Until then, though, It's another one of those super good cards, super solid cards that just you know probably won't be played very often. Sad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that sad about it. Like Rin's got enough good cards. She can go sit in the corner. All right, let's talk about a good Rin card.
Ah, the best. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So the story about this card is funny. This is actually a different name reprint of a PR that Fate has had for a really long time
yeah.
since W
Rin,
Volume 2.
Rin and
So
Archer on patrol, I believe was the
yeah,
name.
yeah. Patrolling in the Night,
Something like that.
right, is the actual name. But so this is like a 2-1 free fresh. You draw when you play this when you have five or fewer cards in your deck. Refresh for free, and then you draw a card. Uh, a lot of people seem to. I think a lot of people even now. It's kind of fun. It's kind of hilarious, but people I think are still underrating this kind of effect. Uh,
Well, it has. Look, they haven't been printed very much,
that's true.
and a
We
lot of the
haven't
sets
we
that
haven't
have
had a
them
deck with this effect, a good deck for a really long time.
since
Actually, it's been
not
like
since like in Index, right?
Index slash Nisekoi. I think
Oh God,
Nisekoi is the last like super like top
OP.
tier deck right that had this effect.
I
It's been a long
forgot
time.
Nisekoi had it. That's how long it's been.
Yeah, dude, and then it got banned.
I had a lot of copies of that too on.
Oh my god. I played that deck that time. It was
No, it was a very skill intensive format that people got very
yeah.
angry at
So
because
early
you
plays
can't just face swap.
searched for refresh.
Anyway, nostalgia
Um,
aside, this card is insane. Like if you play against this card and you see it loop like 2 times, and you think, wow, that's they must be having a really good game,
and this
and then
deck.
they loop
So this is also the first. This is a lot of firsts for this deck, but like I think this is the first time this effect has been paired with a deck that has access to Azusa. I might be wrong.
Nisekoi has that. Nisekoi
Okay,
has
dude. All right, dude. Okay. All right, dude. But Sweets is not a real deck.
what?
This is a real
It
deck.
almost. Do you know the funny thing is, Sweets almost is a real deck simply because it has Azusa and free.
Right. Uh,
Like that's how strong the interaction is.
I don't know that it helps the perception of this card though. Um, I liken
No,
this
it's just
card to a one stock heal to hand because that's essentially what it is. Your refresh point, well, the card that would have been your refresh point just enters your hand instead of your clock.
so
Like that.
dumb. So dumb.
You know what's really funny? So that Elizabeth early play healer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was playing. Yeah, it was very funny. So we had a turn cycle where he played that card on his turn. It's a solid card. Early play one stock healer, ditch a card to heal to stock. Then the turn after he played that, I played the free fresh, and he looked at it and was like, why do I have to ditch to heal?
Because your
But you're
card is
plus
bad.
you go +1 to heal.
It's great.
It's
It's so
the
great.
this
I
card is
like.
insane. This card's insane. So
I think that until you play with this profile or play against this profile, and like I was saying earlier, they loop it twice, and then they loop it 3 times, and then they loop it 4 times, and you slowly look at your board state and you realize you can't win anymore. It's like, why is this card allowed?
uh
I don't. I'm just so upset this card is in a good deck now because now
card's
I have to deal with it.
sweet. Card's sweet. It's so
It's
good. Um
it's extraordinary.
I'm actually gonna call it an S tier. I'm gonna pull out the S. Unironically, call it S tier.
we don't have an S rating.
It's the tier. It's
You can
everybody knows what S means.
yeah, it's S for search as in drop search.
Yeah.
Look, you can give it S. I don't
I
object to
just
that.
I just
It's
would
an
not feel
obscene card.
comfortable rating this on the same level as something other A plus cards. I feel like it's just that good. There is
I don't think have I given an A plus? I gave an A plus to the bomb.
oh well, I have to give this.
I'm gonna
I have to give this, or I could just lower the other. But
I'm keeping this at A plus.
but
This card's
then
obscene.
uh yeah.
Look,
See, this card
this
is so
card
good. You would run so okay. So the way the meta lists have worked themselves out the past like half year since that released, people are now running. So people are running copies of this card as their only red
Yeah, it's great.
because, well, like if you have four of these, level one, and what other red cards are better than this? There is none of them. So run four, and you'll never have issues. Oh, you'll almost never have issues with red.
Yeah,
Also master.
I'm,
It's
I,
a master and servant. That's also like super super low key screwed up about this card. It's a master.
yeah, you can get it off ours, so if you couldn't get it
Yeah.
off ours, so then we wouldn't be having this discussion. I'm just upset, man. Like this card is the reason the green Azusa sucks, and the Ilya Azusa is
Well,
stupid.
Green also isn't a master.
That it also doesn't get this card.
That's that's also true.
It's, I think that like think about what Azusa does, and then think about what this card does. I don't think there's a more synergistic
Ooh,
pair of profiles in the entire game, and this
yeah.
includes like profiles that are meant to work together.
Rather than the rider, I think this is the closest thing to the marquee card that the deck
Yeah, yeah,
has for sure.
this is the deck's main game plan. This
Yeah.
is what you actually should be doing with the deck.
Um, and interestingly enough, I don't think any of the Japanese players who play this deck disagree either. I mean, I think there have been plenty of there have been some articles written by. There's one article, but I feel like it represents a lot of what they feel about this card. They think this card is the main reason to play the deck.
I mean, you have to
So,
play this. You have to play this card once, and then you know how.
oh, it feels so good.
Just play Nisekoi Sweets, man. It's the same thing. All
Yeah,
right,
it's
next.
kind of like Nisekoi Sweet. You have an anti-event card. You have a draw free fresh. You have some
Mm,
healers.
right, next card is Rin, straightforward sense of justice. Uh, God, this card is like I no.
You don't like this card. I think this card is okay.
It's okay. It is okay. That's all
Well,
it
so the
is.
thing about this card, so you can so some people believe that this card has a role to play in the main meta list with bars. They are welcome to their opinion. I disagree. For a lot of reasons that we can talk about, later in the video. But I think this card itself opens up an interesting variant of the deck, wherein you just play. The main game plan is to play a bunch of this with the aforementioned 3/2 Sakura, and really focus on the 3/3 heal event and your random healers that you play every turn, and just win board like against everything on both turns for forever. Like two of this with a in front of a Sakura assist, you're never losing board ever, right?
I
Um,
think the best part about this card is that it's red, so you can level it for the free frag.
I don't know, man. 17k power. Oh, 17k. Yeah, 17.5 power post counter. Pretty good, I think. Like, and
Look,
you get
it's
back to that.
fine. Uh, you died of Reinhardt, I guess. I don't know.
Not even.
It's
Not even. You can pump this card even more,
yeah, you can probably pump it higher, but
and
then Reinhardt
all
just
of them will be big.
leaves. Um,
You know. I this isn't like an amazing card or anything.
it's like whatever. It's a role player. There's
Yeah.
two soul. There's two soul. Um, and against decks like Albuda, which really crutch hard on
Right.
field,
Yeah. No backup. The no backup text is probably so
yeah.
basically like the no backup test is like one of the main play this card.
Like if for example Fujimi hits you to 3-0, they lose their board against like
Yes.
they're just dead. Think about that.
They will
Um,
never regain control of the board
correct.
after
But
this card hits.
anyone still playing Fujimi, hopefully isn't that dumb. So I'm not gonna say that good players affect my rating of this card, but I also think that this crushes bad players and is significantly less effective against players who understand that board control is not something you always should be for, particularly if they know this.
That said,
Um,
like this card's ability to just completely control the board
yeah,
on both offense and
well,
defense.
I think you need two of them. Like, if
Yeah,
you
I
only
mean
have one, it's
that's what the deck that focuses around this card does. It plays
yeah,
two
yeah,
of them
yeah.
at level 3 every game. Uh,
But sure,
and you have
but
a
like,
great act, right? You have a great costless act
yeah, yeah.
to
But
pair with
again,
this.
that's sure, that's fine. Like, I don't really want to enter that argument. It's fine. Having board feels good. Your opponent being unable to kill your board also feels good. Um, but I'm uh I'm not enthused about this card or any deck that uses it in
Yeah,
game.
definitely not the kind of card like that
It's like
often.
we don't live in 2010 anymore. Board control doesn't win the games.
Don't we? Fate is good again. It's kind of like 2012.
Fate was never good though. So
What? I thought it was at some point. It had to have been good. Like the
mm,
first, like the very first. It was like one of the first sets like that came out, right?
even then it wasn't very good. Like it didn't have anything worth playing except like its level threes.
Archer, right?
Well no, the EP Shiro Saber was actually
Oh,
that's
right. That
and
is that the first early play?
it may well have like
That's a good
early
card.
play level three. Yeah, look, that's a card. Um, and people would like pull out all sorts of. It was a very janky deck, so no.
Yeah.
Neither Fate was good back then, but board control was very good. It is significantly less.
Wait, could you have played that card at level 1?
With the Summon Saber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because it has never on hand.
Oh, it's level 2. And you
Yeah,
play for some reason that has never occurred to me.
you know that Summon Saber costs three, right?
Oh, it's not that hard to get stock.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, you didn't have Avenger back
Um,
then, actually. It's
Also, you didn't have any way to really mill reliably down to less than 5 cards before you hit level 2. Uh, so
well,
it was a play, just not like a play that you made, really, unless you were memeing with uh memeing with the Sakura Brainstorm to try and advance summon riders.
mm,
Anyway,
well,
I'm getting off topic. Um, yeah, card is acceptable, but I personally would not recommend. Blue, it sucks. It has a free runner that has 500 total power.
uh,
It has an anti-change bottom deck bomb, which is actually a fine card if you are in a meta where, for example, English might play it because firstly they want more like they're already in blue, so you may as well play blue card. And secondly, it's a meta game where if you let Love Live Sunshine have its Yos for too long, or if you let ReZero have its like if you let them encore a felt or something like that, then it can be catastrophic for you. So you might play the blue anti, but otherwise this Ilya is like the only thing that we care about.
it's quite good.
It yeah, it's like a bad free fresh.
You know,
No,
you can
so it's
salvage this card with the Sakura. It's like got two level
yeah,
threes and you healed for free. You
it's
healed and you got a level 3, another level 3 for free.
yeah, because salvage.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is I didn't even think about that. That's like DP.
Awesome.
It's yeah, so you ignore the whole berserker thing. It doesn't need to be early played, and frankly, wouldn't early play it. It's gonna die. It
It would
is a
be
11k.
yeah.
Yeah, it's an 11k heal, but it's a heal to stock. With the cost of like, if you didn't know what a heal to stock is, it's where you put the top or in this case, the bottom card of your clock in stock. But in order to do that, you have to card. This is being played in an 8 bar deck. That's gonna happen enough. It's just with 8+ in triggers and with a fairly compressed deck and with a stupid free fresh that gives you card advantage. This card is another way to generate further resources for, it's this one's actually a fair card, but the rest of the cards in the deck make for those wondering, in the English version of the deck, which does not have the level 3 events that the Japanese version plays, this is a playable substitute. Although I'm starting to lean towards playing third Sakura support. Like I know you don't need that many, but it's it's at the point where I think that the salvage is good enough. Anyway,
Fair
it's
enough.
a serviceable secondary heal. Your primary being Rider. Although I wouldn't be surprised if healer, depending on who is piloting it and the way you. So that's the only blue card we've got up.
None of the
There,
other
there
ones
are
are worth talking about, honestly.
there are blue cards for other decks, like the Ilya deck or the Shiro deck. Just a bunch of,
Oh, wait,
but
one
none of
second.
them.
I guess there's the bomb.
I mean, we touched on the bomb, but it's markedly worse than Rider unless you're playing English, where you need to remove Yo
Yes, yeah. Removal.
pretty
If removal is
desperately.
important, the Ilya bomb is a fine play. Otherwise, oh, you'd rather win the lane, get some stock. I think.
Pretty much, absolutely. It's significantly more. All
Well,
right.
that's all the cards. We now we can really just talk about the set, outs in the meta and
Yeah.
what we think will happen with the deck
Oh God.
in sure.
Fate is a unironic candidate for the ban list.
No, please. That's can't say that. Can't make
I
jokes like
just
that,
did.
dude. It's not
It's
fair.
it's just
It's not
true. It
fair. It's
actually
not
it's
fair.
just
It's not
true.
fair. It's not fair. It's
Don't
not
worry. If
fair.
if they ban anything, they're actually going to be like hitting the 3/3 event because that's what
What?
everyone bitches about.
No, 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 no. Not even the Japanese players bitch about that card. They
Yeah,
honestly think the card can be cut to one, which
but
is
but that's not who gets listened to. It's the
I
people on
mean,
Twitter.
I'm pretty sure if they ban this, if they restrict this set, it's going to be between the Azusa and the Free Fresh on a choose
Yeah,
one
I,
of two.
I think that's what everyone
That's
who's
like the
actually played the deck.
easiest is the easiest, cleanest way to make this deck a lot worse, without making it like without completely killing it.
Sorry, it's pick one of three.
Please, let's not talk about these. But
Well,
I
it's
mean,
true.
sure, you could. I guess the event will be put on there too.
So, yeah,
That'd be
so
sad.
the quality. It's funny. Fate has had like one quality card in every release. Like the first set had the 3/3 comeback event, which is just 3/3 blue card, heal 3.
That was the memory.
The Yeah, Ataraxia had the Avenger,
Renewal
which
Avenger.
was was really busted, but wasn't busted until very recently. And you don't play that one anyway because I don't think it's master trait until
Oh,
it's on
math.
the
Yeah,
field.
it's not. It's servant
Yeah,
until it's just servant. Yeah.
yeah. So
Revenge or
so
something.
you
Anger. I forget. There's another trait.
it's it might be in whatever. Um, where was I? And then like UBW had us, and
Yes. Did
these
it have
kind of all
anything else?
it had the actual Shiro event.
Oh
Sorry,
yes,
it
of
had the
course. It had the Shiro Avenger.
yeah, and
I
I don't think it had anything else of significant note for
mean,
this deck.
Azusa had stock swap.
Yeah, it had. Oh, that's right, it had stocks. And then Fate Zero did the deck unless you X, and UBW2 had the Rin anti. So it's like every set has slowly given the deck more and more legs, and now it is
A true
um
powerhouse.
it's terrifying to be honest. I don't want to deal with it.
Um,
Um, so I happen to play one of the decks which I can say firmly is not disadvantaged against it. I play the Psychono deck that spams memory. It's neither scared of stock swap nor is it scared of the whole field tempo thing.
Mm-hmm.
Any degree more than a regular deck would be. But even then, where that is my tournament deck, it's a pretty scary deck, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. That deck can't really do anything against the free. I mean, no deck can do anything against the free fresh looping.
Well, the idea is that you go so far over the top that your free freshes are like fine, but they they don't beat the fact that I'm not going to take any.
Sure.
The thing is, that works against every other deck, and even decks like mine that go so far over the top that it doesn't care about all the value that Fate can generate. It doesn't deal very well with them having 8 bars and the ability to play bars.
Yes, that
Like
global soul every turn is. I keep saying this, but it's like it's underrated. Like I think a lot
it,
of people don't understand how powerful it is to be able to play a global soul very easily every turn. Basically, literally almost every turn.
yeah, like I've got people who not people, but I know people who think Kome can come off the ban list because it's like, yeah, she
Well,
probably could, but she should stay there on principle because we don't want people playing Global Soul Climaxes every single
well,
in the or like,
I don't
ugh,
know. I don't know who's we. It's definitely not Bushiroad that's included.
yeah,
Um, but there are plenty. There are some other decks that are built around this concept of playing global soul return that are just happen to be quite potent just because um they're attacking for 2 soul every turn with costless cards.
yep,
This deck can do that too, except it can also do a bunch of other stuff that's like honestly really disgusting.
yeah. It's got really good cards as we've mentioned several times already. It's like surprisingly for a deck that plays as many climaxes as it's not particularly combo reliant.
That is also true.
Um, which is
Yes.
it's actually really interesting.
I think
To have a deck that
it just adds to the power. Honestly,
yeah
I feel
no
like I feel like if this deck were really restricted to certain play patterns, climaxes, I think it'd be worse.
yeah
Um,
but its climaxes like as a trigger in this deck specifically. Once everything's been set up, I would actually say that a bar trigger in this deck is comparable to standby on power level.
hmm, those are big words, very strong
Yeah,
statement.
I believe in those words though because
Uh,
it gives you the option of
I don't know that I
selectivity
can
or gives
disagree
you the
too
option.
much. Uh,
Well, I mean, we haven't actually touched on this, but the guy that I'm co-hosting this with came second at US Nats with this deck, so
uh,
he's very biased.
uh, yes. You know, it's funny.
Yeah, so
I
every
only, you know why, the reason why I was considering this deck why I was even on my radar.
why is that?
Uh, uh, a Fate song came on during my playlist during one of my commutes home,
Okay, dude.
and while I was thinking about what deck I should play for next, I was like, oh, this deck got a set this year, and people seem to be playing it.
Yeah,
I should take a look. Um, More seriously though, uh, uh, the synergy, the printed synergy with the bar trigger in this deck, honestly just shows, I think, how powerful this trigger can be. I think we saw shades of this with Vivid Strike. Uh, that deck similarly had like handmade,
it had a lot
like
of filtering
it had a
for it.
lot of like it had a lot of like printed literal printed synergy with the bar trigger.
Yeah, but you
Um,
didn't see it quite as often because they did play the bomb. Like they just splashed.
yeah,
I
I
think it was
mean,
like the
yeah,
salvage Ricky
red
or
also
whatever.
just sucks in that deck.
Well, it's less that red sucks and more that the deck doesn't have Avenger. If it had
That's
Avenger,
also true. That is also true. Um,
so like it's just a deck that has all these plussing mechanisms, ways to convert these pluses into more meaningful pluses, as well as a really stupid, extremely skill intensive card in Avenger, which I say that because clocking yourself is always a significant cost. But if you do it properly and you're always poised to do it properly in this deck, it's very rare that you can clock and have made an objective mistake playing 8 bar, in my opinion.
Uh, yeah, and there's a lot of
It
ways to
goes really
use
well.
Avenger. It's honestly
Yeah,
quite a versatile card.
it goes really well. And it's yellow even.
Yeah. Did you know it
What I'm
searches
really
for a
trying
Saber on play? Like
yeah,
a specific Saber?
I'm it searches, yes, I'm very aware. In fact, I even know which saber it is. But look, I've said this like 20 times or something. The real strength of this deck is in its busted zeros that just make every other card in the deck obscenely good. If it's not Azusa, then it's Avenger. It's just these two cards, they are, and the free fresh, of course, but these two cards enable so much obscene nonsense. And it's just, no, man, if you don't think this deck is strong, you should go play it.
It's a really well.
Play it.
It's easy to underestimate this deck. One because, uh, you know, don't even. It's super easy to like, uh, get caught up in old ways of thinking about the set because this set has been really bad for a really long time. And it's funny, when I told a lot of people were very surprised when they found out what I was playing for Nats. Like that's just how it is. And given how powerful this deck has become in the meta, that just goes to show like there's a lot of negative sentiment that has surrounded this set for a while, and now it's gonna get banned. Sad.
Also, I want to say something just in case it was unclear. The Avenger doesn't search for any saber.
Oh, no, yeah, it
And it
searches for a
doesn't.
very specific Saber. Yeah, sorry.
No, it actually searches for a card with saber in its name, but
Wait, it
it's
does?
actually it's a Shiro. It searches for the 1/0 Climax combo.
Oh.
I've used that
Oh.
effect a
Wait.
non-zero number of times.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, it's pay to search for that card.
Holy. You can just tech that. Uh, for whatever
Uh,
reason, I do not know why.
I mean, it was the plain Shiro waifu.
Yeah.
But
The other reason why this deck is
look,
strong is not simply because it pluses so well, either.
no, it's because
I
it's
think I think
well poised.
it's super well. It's also just like meta defining, right? It's a lot of its cards require deck builders to really consider strategies and synergies to beat them. A lot of
I think,
Albuta players are
yeah,
thinking about even running this like crappy 1/1 that can't be reversed by cost 0 cards, specifically because this deck is such a threat.
only in English. I don't think I've
Only in
heard
English,
any
yeah.
rumblings from Japanese.
Well, I think in
In
Japanese,
English, look, the reason, like in Japanese, what's happened is it's actually not as significant as you say, because
oh no,
Saikano is one of the highest rep sets,
well,
and they only play the Kato, and the Kato is rolled by
sure. I
like
mean, it has
it's like
become like a Fate
horrible.
versus Saikana meta, but there's also like Sunshine,
Well,
standbys 1/1s.
OG Love Live,
Hmm?
extremely dominant, and
Oh yeah,
OG
that's
Love
true.
Live,
Oh,
and their combo is it's just Shizuru. So
the other thing about this deck that it also just dies to
oh, it has
stock swap Fumios.
yeah,
Like
but it also has stock swap.
it also has stock swap, but like I think obviously this deck has a lot more to lose than most other decks
Yeah, I agree
when
with
it
that.
gets swapped. I think.
Doesn't really have great stock outs either, unless you
Yeah,
want,
that's
like,
that's the other thing.
if you want, the thing is, if you spend your resources getting stock outs, the only stock out in this deck that really produces a lot more playables is the 3/2 Sakura, and that's not playable till, and
And the
stock swap
brainstorm,
coming.
but yeah.
I mean, I guess, but like, are you brainstorming for a brainstorm?
So
I guess you could, yeah.
sometimes you do have to do that.
I mean, look, I think we've inadvertently found the secret tech. What we do is we play Avenger and pay 2 for no value.
God,
No, that's stupid.
terrible. Oh,
Look,
uh, we
if
didn't
you
even talk about
go on.
stock swap this entire time.
I mean, I don't think
Like,
we need to. We all know that stock swap is
I
just this
mean,
it's this
just
stupid looming threat on the like above the players' heads. You can't have more than 8 stock, otherwise you lose the game.
yeah. Also, you also can't stock charge a level. Probably will a level one stock swap.
I mean, Love Live does that, and they
It
are
doesn't have a level one stock
good
swap.
damn. Love no, no, I mean Love Live stock charge,
Oh, yes,
and they don't
yes.
really care.
Well, I think they do. If you get a really good stock swap at a good timing, then like their
Yeah,
next
I
deck's
know
just
it
ruined.
cripples them, but
It
like,
just doesn't. They can't. They also can't power through their deck very easily.
yeah, I mean, based on rep and well, they can if they want to. It's just I don't think their decks
It's
are
pretty
built
hard.
to.
I think it's hard.
Uh, I don't know how much of their builds are green, but like the Nozomi Azas,
They
probably.
can't like cycle them very easily. It doesn't have a way to
I mean,
salvage a card.
sure.
Um, the other thing
Plus, they
about
do brainstorm a lot early. That's
it,
just
it doesn't search for doesn't search.
no, no, no. But
Oh, you
brainstorm
mean for milling?
for.
Sure, sure. Um, there's another card that we also actually we only mentioned in passing, but the level one anti change.
Oh yeah, the
It's not commonly played in Japanese lists right now. Um, the only reason why I think that's so is because the meta isn't that great for it. But I think if you're thinking about playing in a meta where Fate is, where you people are going to be playing Fate, have to think about this card. This the level one anti change really like changes that dynamic of how the game is played. Especially like at level one, like changes how like early play decks have to be played. It, like completely changes like the risk reward of early plays when the other player hits level two first.
and it can really make standby
Oh yeah.
turns.
Oh yes.
Like, yes,
Yes.
you lose cards doing it, but if you think from their perspective, they're already behind in damage against an 8 bar deck.
Also,
Putting them even, yep,
I mean, it's an anti damage if they attack with it. You just clock on core, make the damage back, or like
yeah,
it's just
make the
insane.
cards back, yeah,
Yeah.
because you're already ahead, assuming you're playing bars and trying bars, and like you can afford to take
You can also
cards.
ditch bars. This anti change.
Yes, yeah. So it's really good at leveling the playing against decks that try to
I mean,
get you.
it's just a broken like it. I feel like it's just a broken kind of effect. Like
Oh,
Medusa
the
has
effect
this
is
card
broken.
on their as it has this card restricted.
Effect is broken.
If the
The
cost can be
cost
easily sustained, like paid and sustained, like
it still blows. Like even if it's
that's true. But
it is
you have
just
to
a
work around
very
you have to work around the cost for sure. But
yeah, but
it's
it's
just
worth it.
super powerful.
It's the point is that it's worth it. So it's a perfect storm of lots of good cards that all kind of come together, make it quite solid. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very powerful deck for a little while
Until it gets
until at
restricted.
least until honestly, I
Fate,
don't think
so
not the most likely to get hit. I think Love Live is the most likely, followed
you
by
think so? I
Sakura.
think it's.
Actually,
I think it'll. I feel like it has to get hit. So it's still very popular in
no,
Japan.
no, dude. Like I even think
Uh,
Kimono might be a better ban candidate than
are
this.
you? Come
To
on,
be
dude.
based on results, yeah, I am serious.
No, I mean Fate's been. Fate's been doing super well.
Yeah, but so is freaking Kimono and Love Live.
Mm, we'll see. I just have a
Okay,
very bad feeling.
okay.
I'm not biased at
Uh,
all.
good thing I bought it in English. Either way, look, that is our still fairly lengthy set review on a far smaller number of cards, a far less, a far less broad reach. You don't have to talk about silly vanillas or niche decks. And I understand some people actually enjoy that. A lot of the a lot of people who have listened for a long time do enjoy us blathering on about awful 1/1s and how awful
Oh, we still kind of
the
blathered on
current meta.
about
Yeah, we
bad
kind of
cards
do.
for a little bit, but
Took a
It
I
is a
mean,
bit of an adjustment. I agree, compared to our
yeah,
previous
so
content.
look, feedback is much appreciated. If you change, great, let us know. If bad change, great, let us know. I know we've got specific demographics that bother listening to us, and a lot of people do download the videos as audio files to listen to. So let us know what you thought, whether you think it's a reasonable format, whether you prefer the old format. It takes so long. And anything else you might want to suggest. We're also thinking of doing some more generalist things with general topics like how to prepare for a metagame, how to read results, as well as gameplay oriented stuff like standby climaxes versus global soul climaxes, and the impact of climax deck building, that sort of thing. Let us know um, how everything might, how you might want to hear from us, and we'll take. Did
All
you have
right.
anything else you want to say?
Um. No. Just that. I think recently, or not really recent. For a while, our videos might have become kind of like dry, a little lifeless. I feel. Hopefully,
Absolutely.
by focusing our attention a little bit more, we can talk about the things that we're more interested in, because we're both bikes, like to optimize and come up with ways to improve uh, our decks and play the game. Hopefully, we can
Yeah, and
deliver content with a little bit more passion and energy than we've had in the recent past.
yeah, this format is going to be a bit difficult for sets that haven't yet, or rather haven't been tested in a competitive setting yet. But we'll do it. So yeah, let us know. Leave a comment, hit us up on Discord, or global, where we are both watching, listening, and yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you.
Happy holidays.